In this series of 4 videos, we're going to be creating a SAP Business Objects Data Services repository on a SAP HANA database. In the first video, I'll create a user in the SAP HANA Studio which will house the Data Services repository. In the second video, I'll create a Data Services repository with the Data Services Repository Manager. In the third video, I'll log into Business Objects Central Management Console within the enterprise set of products, and I'll create a Data Services connection to my Data Services repository. And in the fourth video, I'll log into the Data Services Server Manager and create a server so we can execute jobs within our Data Services repository. So in this video, I'll create a Data Services repository with the Data Services Repository Manager. So in a previous video, the video number 1 in the series, we created the user in the SAP HANA Studio. Now in order to create the repository, we need to do a couple of things. Firstly, we need to create an ODBC connection to that HANA database. I've already got one, so I'll show you it. If I go to my administration tools and go to Data Sources ODBC, within the System Manager tab, you'll see I've got a system DSN called HANA. I'm using ODBC. I'm connecting to the machine called HANA, and this is the port that I need to connect to, which is essentially 3 followed by this instance number followed by the number 15. To test, I'm going to click on Connect, and I'm going to log in with that user that I created in that first video. So it's dsrepo, and the password is dsrepo with a capital D. We should see that we were able to connect successfully, so I can click on OK, OK, and then OK. So now that we've tested the HANA ODBC connection, we can launch the Data Services Repository Manager. We do this by going to Start, All Programs, Business Objects Data Services, and we select the Data Services Repository Manager tool. Now there are 3 different types of repository that you can create. A local repository, which is used for developers. Each developer normally has their own local repository, and it can be on this machine or on a separate machine. So in our example, our repository is going to be on our HANA server, which is on a Linux machine. You can build a central repository, which is used to share content between developers. So that means share content between local repositories. And you can create a profile repository to save historic information on the data in your Data Services data stores. In this video, we're going to be creating a local repository, so I'm going to select local as my repository type. The database type, well, these are the 5 or 6 databases that are supported, but we're obviously going to use SAP HANA as our database type. We'll then select that ODBC connection that we used before, which is called HANA, and then I'll create that user, which is dsrepo, and I'll put the password as well, which is dsrepo123. Now a little tip is if you click on Show Details and select Get Version, what we should see is that that database exists, but the repository tables are not valid. Essentially, this is a good test to make sure that you're not trying to write to an existing database. So I can see here that we've got connectivity to the database, but there are no repository tables in that schema. So all I need to do now is select Create. So it takes around 30 seconds to create that Data Services repository. So the reason there's a pause now is because it's adding some data quality configuration and transform information into the repository. And the creation of the repository should be finished in a few minutes. There we go. We can see that it says that the local repository was successfully created. Again, if I click on Get Version, we'll see that the version of the local repository we've created is version 14.1. So now I can close the Data Services Repository Manager, and we can go back into the SAP HANA Studio just to test that the repository is indeed created. So if I expand the connection that I built before, go into the catalog, expand the DS repo schema, and expand the tables, we should see our list of Data Services Repository tables. So this shows that that Data Services Repository has indeed been created correctly. So we can shut down the SAP HANA Studio now, as we don't need that anymore. So in the previous two videos, we looked at creating a user, and then we looked at creating the Data Services Repository. In the next, which is the third video, we're going to be looking at creating a Data Services connection within the Business Objects Enterprise Central Management Console.